impromptu go live.
It's how it always is.
Welcome to the 5th month of Professor Kelsey's book club. Is it?
For this month, for this year, but we've done this is more than the fifth time we've done it.
I know this feels.
We did it.
Welcome,
Like this is the
welcome
fourth month. This is the fourth time we've done it this month, but we've
of
done it
this
more
year.
this year. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Welcome everybody to the Nestlings live show by Nat Cassidy.
It's on my
Justin.
face. There we go.
It was $2 on Kindle.
I'm so tired of arguing with you.
Then don't. It's very simple.
When I said there was one book where I said, "Oh, maybe I don't want to buy it this month," you forced me. It was Ordinary Monsters, and it was for a good reason. I shouldn't have bought it.
You will come up with something every month
I've
to
really
give
fun,
me a hard time about.
really fun idea.
Did you see her Goodreads post about this book?
No, I didn't. I purposely
really
stayed away.
Wanted to see who would notice it.
She didn't star rate it, but she goes full thoughts here because my co-hosts are haters, is what she said in her review.
Kelsey's fantastic. She understands how to put out content.
I was like, either they're not going to see it at all and we're never addressing it, which is equally funny to me, or you guys are going to see it.
Yeah, I saw it. Because I got the notification, Kelsey has finished Nestlings by Nat Cassidy.
Did you get with the notification when I finished?
No, but you texted me and said that you finished it.
Stop being so jealous, Justin. Jeez.
No, I finished it at like 2:45 in the morning.
Yeah. You read it in like
basically
one
I
sitting.
read it in one sitting.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into. Wait, first we need a summary.
Okay.
Who wants to summarize this one?
I'll do it.
All right.
It was my pick, so I'll do it.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, Justin. Okay, I'm ready.
So the story about this book is a young family, mother, father, and their little baby, who's just shy of a year old, are making ends meet, but they have entered into an apartment lottery, which I don't know if that's a real thing in New York City. It is? Okay.
It is. Yep.
So it's basically where you win the lottery and you get this really fancy apartment that you should not be able to afford. But it just so happens it's in this building that nobody else really wants to enter. And as they come into the building, they start noticing some changes in the way that their baby is acting. And there's these mysterious bumps on the baby. And they find all the tenants in the building or the workers in the building to be extremely strange. And the one tenant that they do come across is suicidal, I'll say. And yeah, it is the story of this family trying to piece together what's going on within their family while living in this building and what is the sinister secret of this building.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Great job, Justin.
A+.
I aim to please.
So, what was your rating?
I gave this book 3 stars.
Okay.
I
Elaborate.
felt it was, you know, I had read Hidden Pictures, I think since the last time we did this, and I was looking for something that was a little bit scary.
Okay.
And I'll say the first 100 pages of this book, I was like, this isn't scary, but it is creepy. There's like a creep factor to this book that I was really enjoying. And I don't know what brought me exactly to 3 stars. I didn't love any of the main players of the book. I felt some of their actions were weird, to say the least. And I don't know if that's because of what's happening in their lives or whatever, but I enjoyed reading it, but I think it fell a little flat at the end for me, and that's why I landed at 3 stars.
Okay.
Interesting. Bobby?
I'm kind of caught between 4 to like kind of 4.5. I'm not sure really. I think I'm kind of floating more towards the 4 part of it. I really enjoyed, you know, that it it's the kind of horror that I really like, which is it is a really good kind of creep fest while also having sort of like that 70s horror kind of, this is about something else. Like this is also
Mm-hmm.
about like not even just about trauma, because that's like what all horror movies are about now. Everyone decided that all their horror movies are going to be about trauma, but like this this is about just more than that, and different kinds of trauma and different relationships, and the way that, you know, the scary way that sometimes I think like a change in your family can lead to unintended like consequences and unintended things that happen between, you know, between people who might have been together way before, right? They had a child or anything like that, or did a big move or whatever those things, you know, might be, or something bad happens in their lives. So I really liked that a lot, and I think like there was a moment in the ending, which I'm sure we'll get to talking about the ending, where I thought I was going to be kind of jump off the train with the book and be like, I don't really like this, but in the end, I liked the way it brought it home. It had enough of a mix of, here's like a satisfying encounter like that's happening, while not being, you know, what you would expect the ending to be, either the bad version of the ending, or the like, oh, we magically tied everything up and fixed everything ending. It's not either one of those endings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I liked that about the book, because I think it fit with the themes of kind of how life is sort of like not one or the other for most of the time, you know, that. So I liked that a lot. What about you, Kels?
So I'm in the middle of both of you. I gave it a 3.5. I was leaning towards a 4, but I think I definitely agree with Justin saying that like it was, I think, less spookier than I expected it to be, although it was still pretty creepy. And I think that's sort of his writing style. Like I think it was very simplistic writing style, and so I couldn't get as scared as I like wanted to, because I feel like the writing style felt more campy but like trying to be serious. So I was like, am I, is this campy or am I supposed to be scared? Kind of
I
thing.
mean, they're not mutually exclusive.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Like
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
gonna say Grady Hendrix, but it's like I think because I go into Grady Hendrix books like knowing that they're camp,
yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's okay, blah blah blah. But then in this one, I think I wanted to be scared,
Right. Yeah.
and
I
also, oh,
Go
go
ahead, Kelsey.
Justin.
No, no, no,
No,
no, no.
no,
Go ahead.
no, 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 no. Please, I'm a Canadian. You have to go first.
So I think that once the cat is out of the bag about what the book is about, like where we find out what's really going on, I don't think the book. I'm not going to say it flies off the rails, but it stopped being scary at any point. There was no, you know, like it felt like the climax, it were the peak of the action of this book happens about maybe halfway to three quarters through, and the rest of it is just like, well, I'm seeing how this wraps up, and like that's why
Mhm.
it kind of left me feeling a little bit uneven at the ends, because like you would want that crescendo to really happen near the end of the book, but it felt like for me that crescendo of, you know, feeling like I'm reading a horror book happens way earlier. Like
Okay,
once we get into the actual, like
we
we
could.
meet the bad guys, I was like, oh, this is not what I was hoping for. And it didn't feel very threatening, very scary, or anything like that.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, they're pretty threatening.
They literally
Like suck your insides out.
and
But
it.
it was just weird.
I forgot about how disgusting that is. Actually,
Okay,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
it's
disgusting.
gross.
It's gross.
It's gross.
It's
It's
gross for
basically
sure.
they're making your insides into a Slurpee and then just drinking it.
Yeah.
yeah. You know what?
That's
Actually,
gross, but like the
I'm
way
thinking
that
of
it was
some visuals.
the visuals were gross.
Yeah. It's like very
Yeah,
almost HR Geiger, like
yeah.
you know,
The
like
we could get into spoilers to, I guess, like encompass
yeah.
what we're tiddling around.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, the what I one of the elements that I think I appreciated is at the beginning of the book. Obviously, they win this lottery, and they're not from Manhattan, right? So
Mhm.
they're like,
They're from
oh my god,
Brooklyn.
I don't know. I went to Brooklyn when I went
Yeah,
to
well,
New
they're not
York.
from Brooklyn. They live in Brooklyn,
Yeah,
which just means they're sort of like upper middle class white people, but not like rich white people.
hipsters.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hipsters. That's like a 15 years ago term at this point. But
Hipsters can't afford to live in
yeah, yeah.
Brooklyn
Guys,
Exactly.
anymore.
I'm Gen Z, please.
Hipsters have been pushed out of Brooklyn at this point. So,
But
yeah.
they're infatuated, I guess, with the idea of living in a
Hmm.
more like um exclusive
Yeah.
neighborhood. And they, because they're not on the island or they're not from the island, they don't really know about this building in a
Mhm.
sense. And they're very, very into it. And our first inkling that something's off is the mention of the gargoyles, which when we get to the like the end, I actually think the gargoyles were an interesting part
Mhm.
about like what they do with their elderly.
Mhm.
But the gargoyles are there. There's like this sinister presence, and already it's off because our main character
Anna, I think,
Anna,
because
like
she gets
Frozen.
really angry at that person at the party who
Oh
calls her
yeah.
Anna.
Oh my god, it's so true. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So Anna,
Yeah.
um, experience. I don't know exactly what it was called, but basically from giving birth, she lost mobility
Yeah.
in her legs, so she's not able to um move without her wheelchair
Yeah.
essentially. And so right away we have this like sinister inkling that the mobility will be something that will be a problem, right? She's on a higher
Mhm.
floor, already feeling isolated by being on maternity leave, being a mother, having to stay home, not the one that's going out to work,
Mhm.
is already isolating in and of itself. There's definitely, we can get into discussions about postpartum after, um, but there's this already tension there with something watching them in the window, and then this understanding that Anna can't escape and
Mhm.
Reed can. So the male character, the father, is already able to leave freely and will be leaving the house to go to work. And Anna, not only just from her loss of mobility, but also being a new mom, is going to be forced to stay into the house. So originally, they didn't want to take the house, but something overcomes Anna, and she decides that they have to
Mhm.
be here. So, what did you guys think of this initial like tension building couple of chapters?
I forget in the back of the book, does it say that she's in a wheelchair?
I don't remember.
Because yeah, so I had forgotten that part, and
Mhm.
when it came up, I was like, "Oh, that's right." Like,
Mhm.
because they do a really good job of like, she's like, "We can't take this apartment," and if
Yeah.
you didn't read the back of the book or had forgotten, like I did, you're like, "Why?" And then you
Mhm.
find out, oh, that's because we're going to the top floor,
Mhm.
and it's
Yeah.
not wheelchair accessible. I think the beginning of the book is really strong. I think the first couple of chapters lay in mystery and creep
Hmm.
in like a
Yeah.
huge way, especially when it's um excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Where the words like Anna, put down the knife. I
Mhm.
love the way that he did this, where it
Those little
was
like
like
interstitial things that would pop
yeah,
up.
where
Yeah.
it would
Mhm.
pop up in
Yeah.
in their heads, where it's like put down the knife, put down the knife.
Mhm.
Nope, and then go right back to what we're talking about. It's like, oh, I'm really interested in what's going on here. I think the beginning of the book, as opposed to the last book that we read, was incredibly strong.
Mhm. Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think what I really like, what I like about the book, and in the beginning, especially in the setup for this whole thing, is that he isn't really interested in trying to pretend like everything is okay, right?
Yeah.
He's not, because that woman eats that bug like right at the end of the first chapter or whatever, after they leave the apartment.
Oh
She's like,
yeah.
oh good, they're just gonna be
Vera.
so happy here. Yeah, Vera or whatever. She eats a cockroach or whatever. So you already know like this thing is gonna be weird, right? Like there's something weird going on here. We're not he's not gonna do the thing where he pretends like everything is fine. He's gonna hold back and lay it out, like unravel a mystery about what exactly is going on, and I think this book, obviously it sort of borrows from its setup from Rosemary's Baby in
Yeah.
quite a few ways, like the sort of weird apartment building, the baby who's not quite right, the the mother having a hard time dealing with what could be just normal natural postpartum issues, or there's something bad going on. the father kind of being, I mean, he's way more in on it in Rosemary's Baby than he is in this. It's kind of a developing situation, but you know, that whole part of it is very much, and both of them play off this idea of, right, like um uh doubting this woman because of these things that have happened previously, right? These, she's seen as fragile, she's seen as like you know, edgy, she's
More
seen
sensitive.
it more, very sensitive, you know, ready, could snap at any moment, you know, and they play off that stuff very, very well. And I thought the setup is great in that way, in the way they very classically in horror do the little bits at a time, the little bits of build up, right? Like even for you, they start out with like, this could be something terrible, or this could just be something like, it could just be something in her head, or it could be the wind, or it could be like you're in a new building, you know, because you don't really, because up until the end, I wasn't even 100% sure what the actual like
Horror
was going to be, because it's like, okay, there
Yeah.
are these vampire-ish creature things,
But is it actually?
yeah, is it
Yeah.
actually? And is the buildings, because they kept doing a lot of stuff all throughout the book where they're like the walls feel warm, like their skin or whatever, and you know, I'm like, okay, are they just gonna drop this? And the fact that they don't at the end is why I think I ended up liking the ending more than
Yeah.
where I thought it was going when we got to that point. But I did
I
really like the beginning a lot.
I also liked the ending because it felt like, you guys remember that movie Monster House?
Yes, of course. Yeah,
That's what the ending really reminded me of, where they're
yeah,
like, she loves it here and we feed her. And
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, oh my God. Flashbacks.
Hmm.
And I was like,
Hmm.
wow, an adult version of Monster House.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I was gonna say was, one of the like first instances of creepiness is obviously, like I said, the gargoyle scene,
Hmm.
um of just staring outside and having this like beautiful picturesque background with the gargoyles staring back. But then it's later on when Anna starts being like, oh, like, sorry, Anna, when Anna starts being like, oh, like, I was really sure there was a gargoyle there, but like, I guess not,
Yeah.
whatever. And then right away we jump into Anna's thoughts are slowly like, they're becoming more um told to us.
Hmm.
So like, one of the first things I tabbed was that like, Anna starts thinking about like how she hates her daughter and wish that she was never born.
Hmm.
And then it just jumps into, and then she's like, okay, well, now we have to unpack the boxes.
Hmm.
And so it's like very interesting that I think what Nat Cassidy was doing here was showing how like sometimes when you deal with like intrusive thoughts, they're not necessarily what you're actually feeling,
Yeah.
um, but you are trying to deal with it while being in an overly stressful time. Like postpartum is always stressful, and then I can't even imagine like a loss of mobility when you're, and
Hmm.
they constantly describe her as being like she was super active and like,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of mental things going on. And then right after that, in the next chapter, they're talking about like Frank, their old
Oh yeah.
landlord. And I
Yeah.
was like, I know exactly this type of man. I was like,
Mm.
and it's funny because here's, I think, where we really see the dynamic between Anna and Reed,
Mhm.
because Reed's like, he's just being like, oh, like Frank, it's just the way he is. Like he finds his like racist and like sexist comments like, just the not that he finds them funny, but he's like, oh, whatever, Anna, like who
Mm.
cares, kind of thing. And like she genuinely feels like scared, and it's adding to her like locked in syndrome, because she's like,
Yeah.
I cannot leave
Yeah.
if he comes, or if he comes to like attack us, because she genuinely felt scared by like Frank's presence, obviously as a woman. And Reed was like, oh, whatever, don't take him seriously. When in the end, Frank coming to them ends up saving Anna's life, which
Yeah.
I think is really funny,
Yeah.
because she was
Absolutely.
scared. She's like, I don't want him here.
Yeah. And you know, you mentioned the thing about the gargoyle
Mhm.
out the window, and
Those were the creepy. Those were the creepiest scenes, if I could just mention. Like when she's like, it was staring at me
oh
with
yeah, when
its
the
big
thing
eyes,
staring in
and
the
it's,
window.
and
Yeah.
I was like, I was
Hmm.
scared to look at my windows. I was like, I can't.
Yeah. Is everything okay, Justin? You're muted right now.
My mic was dying. So
Oh.
my headset, excuse me, was dying. So I have to
Okay.
just plug it in. And then
Oh,
I knocked
gotcha.
my mic out, which muted it.
Gotcha. Okay. You really are the Kelsey of now.
Hmm.
So but speaking about the window and the gargoyles thing, couple those couple of chapters where she keeps having these moments, right, where she's like, then she wakes up, and the other time and again where she's like, there's something wrong. There's something I
Yeah,
like that
I'm
I saw,
missing.
and I love shit like that in books, like and stories. This idea of like there's something just out of your like vision that you can't grasp, and you have to kind of almost look at it sideways to be able to see it. It's almost like this thing that's like
Yeah.
hanging in the corner, whether it's something actually there or just something in your mind. And I love stuff like that. And that part gave me like that stuff always gives me like chills.
Mhm.
Like I like
Mhm.
because like it's one of the things that like I think about all the time is like, well, what if like there's something really wrong and like I just can't see it, you know? So that idea and that beginning part, some of that beginning part was very I could say like Stephen King inspired
Well,
because
it is inspired by
you talk about
Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot. Yeah, you talk about
Yeah.
Salem's Lot. Yeah. But I'm just saying like just like the way like the style in which it's written, this like because there's that moment where she goes like where it says like later when Anna would think about when everything started to fall apart, she would think about this moment. Like that is like every Stephen King book
Quintessential.
has that fucking like that line in it in some way. And so I thought that was really
Mhm.
cool. And, you mentioned thing about the campiness of it, and I think this does have some obviously some camp to it. You mentioned Grady Hendrix. I think the difference is Grady is much more like horror comedy in a lot
Yeah,
of ways, and this
exactly.
is not horror comedy. It's a horror
Exactly.
book that has like over the top, you know,
I think that's what I was
scares or whatever.
trying to
Mhm.
get at. Like it's like
Yeah,
with Grady Hendrix, I'm expecting it sort of, and with
yeah,
this one, like I could tell it wasn't necessarily trying to be overtly funny because
yeah,
I still think he was trying to be funny. Like there were scenes that were like a little comedic.
yeah, for sure.
Like their drunk friend that really wanted to absolutely go on the roof. Like
Yeah,
we've all been there. Like
hmm,
so,
yeah,
I think like there were scenes that were I think meant to be like lighthearted, but I think they're
yes,
lighthearted in any way that a horror movie does have those comedic scenes. Whereas like Grady Hendrix, I think is more of like a scary movie route where
yeah,
like
yes,
everything's a joke and there are scary moments, but
yeah,
this was more like a scary movie with some like
yeah.
Yeah.
relieving
Because the
features.
premise right on its face, like I don't like the Grady Hendrix stuff, because I think a lot of times Grady Hendrix is more intense and scary than you'd expect because of the way that. But the premises are like, what if an IKEA was a haunted like portal to the hell? And you're like, okay, well, this is obviously going to be funny, and then you read it. And it isn't honestly that funny. It's just very like heightened, but
Yeah.
you're more in this space of like, well, whatever happens, I'm just gonna go with it because we're already starting with this book that looks like a catalog,
Ugh,
or
best.
whatever.
Yeah.
So like that kind of stuff in this, it's very more, like I said, more straight down the middle, like 70s horror in a lot of ways. Um what I think kind of struck me, and I'm curious both of you how you felt about this. This is one of the first books I've read that feels like very much born out of the post like 2020 like pandemic times
Yeah.
that we're living in right now. Like you read a lot more than we do, Kelsey. So
Yeah. I was gonna
obviously.
say, I've read some books, especially recent releases, where they like casually
Mm,
mention it. Um, I think it's going to be more and more, obviously,
hmm,
because now the books that we're reading that are being published, more the newer releases, but the books
hmm,
that are being published now are going to be works that are right out of the authors being trapped in
yeah.
the pandemic. And I think what was interesting with this is that we have Anna being trapped like twice. And so
Hmm,
it's like just to imagine how stir crazy we were for, let's say, I don't know about you guys, but in Quebec here, we had curfews and we weren't allowed to leave the house after it was 8 p.m. at one point, and then it was 10 p.m. And so that drove obviously a lot of people really crazy up here.
hmm,
Not to mention like for a lot of us, it was the first time we were working from home around the world. So this is like a shared experience
yeah.
that a lot of people feel. And then you also have this shared experience, I think, primarily with women with the postpartum um, part of the book, and then also this disability part of the book, which are all like different experiences that have different communities. And I feel like these slight mentions of the pandemic are able to like ground people that might not necessarily have the two other experiences, but understanding what it feels like to be stuck, to not be able to move, to be so depressed out of your mind that you like invent things.
Yeah.
um so I think like I think Nat Cassidy actually used it in a good way because he's not directly saying that it's a pandemic book. The characters experience something that we're able to relate to. All
Mm-hmm.
everybody reading the book is able to relate to the global pandemic. That's something that happened to all of us.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting that he's sort of tying the pandemic with these two other experiences that not, let's say, 100% of the world experienced.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And usually, like when I've read books that like will bring up the pandemic, like, oh, remember last year, haha, that kind of like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
throwing it in, it's usually used as a tool to kind of like unite a common experience
Mm. Okay.
so far
Mm-hmm.
anyways.
Yeah. How do you feel about it, Justin? Like, just like like the post-pandemic stuff. Like, even just, I don't think, Justin, you and I have read very many books where people are ordering food on like Postmates or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
it's
so
just
that
like,
was
yeah.
honestly, when I read that though, it was kind of one of those things. It kind of took me back to reading. It's gonna sound strange, but the Ultimates that Mark Millar wrote
Mm-hmm.
at the turn of the century.
Yeah.
It's like some things, if you go back and read them years later, like one of the characters is on a date with Freddie Prinze Jr. and the Hulk hates Freddie Prinze Jr. And so, like, you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
earmarking it as this time because who knows how long Postmates is going to be here. So
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
reading
Yeah.
this book 5 years from now, you'd be like, what was that?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I always find those kind of things interesting when they're like, this is a thing that existed at this point in time that might not exist in the future or might not be relevant in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely felt the pandemic vibes in this book for sure. It definitely, out of all the books that I've read this year, it had it the most.
Yeah.
Um, I was really struck by two things. One, it was the postpartum stuff, and two, it was the anti Semitism.
Semitism,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
where that is out and in front of this book a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
The Jewish heritage that our characters are attached to really shines through, and you get the sense of, without it being forceful, the prejudice that they feel like,
Mm-hmm.
even in the slightest of ways. So I was impressed by that because it was done with a very subtle touch but
Yeah.
still left a mark.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I think, you know, just like for me, it was just struck by, just like you were saying, Kelsey, like the feeling of it all. Like, I just, like, it got me into the headspace very quickly. And I thought too that, you know, when you read when I read the afterword, which is obviously not Cassie talking about the kind of parallels between the stuff he wrote in this book and his actual life. I think there is some, you know, there's some courage involved in the way he writes Reed, who obviously is some sort of like analog for himself at a lot of times,
Yeah.
and really being just, I think, very honest about
Yeah.
the, you know, the sort of feelings you can have, the negative feelings you can have about somebody that you love because of the situation that you get put into, right? Like, having
Yeah.
to be a caretaker, having to stretch yourself thin, like him willing to be like, you know, I resent this and I resented it and it made me feel this way. Like, I think not a lot of people are very willing to talk about that stuff. And it doesn't even have to be something as big, right, as having a partner who is you know, dealing with a movement issue, or dealing with postpartum, or dealing with, you know, just like sometimes in life, you know, especially when you're in a family, sometimes, you know, one of the two people has to do the blind share of the work, and if that keeps happening for over a long period of time, it can start to cause rifts and resentments and issues. And the fact that, like, he's willing to be kind of say kind of how he was feeling in that way, I think, I thought, like I said, there was some courage involved in it, because it was, you know, not obviously not to the extent that he has felt it, but I felt those kind of feelings, you know, before, when things have been unbalanced in my relationship, you know, and when it comes to like who's caregiving and everything like that. And I'm sure it's felt the other way as well. And so it's like, it was, I really thought that was interesting and effective, especially if, you know, for me connecting to the book.
Yeah, I definitely agree because thinking about it, I've read a lot of postpartum books. And a lot of it stems from the fact, right, that women speaking about postpartum and speaking about how they're having a terrible time and that motherhood isn't this most beautiful awestruck thing that we like to perceive and present, right? Is still very, I don't know what I'm trying, like not niche, but taboo to talk about
Yes.
still
Hmm.
to this day. And I think it's even more taboo for the other person in the relationship who's not experiencing the
Hmm.
postpartum depression to talk about how much it might take a toll on them when their partner is going through something mentally that they can't even comprehend. You can't
Yeah.
even understand what that person's going through. So I think it was really interesting because specifically Nat Cassidy is a male writer, right? So to write about postpartum and being able to understand what I guess his partner went through
Hmm.
from an outside perspective. But then I think it's really commending of him to put his own perspective in it, right? Like we're saying, like
Yeah.
it's very like in my opinion, like I respect him for showing that it's not just the first of all the women that go through the
Hmm.
postpartum or the partner that gives birth that goes through the postpartum depression, and that they could be this like horrible person just because they feel so horrible, but that you can also feel horrible. It's
Yeah.
for different reasons. It you become the caretaker of like two people now,
Hmm.
and it's harder. But to have this honesty, I think is really interesting because we're we're entering an era, I think, in like social climates where these more taboo subjects are being spoken of a bit
Hmm.
more. And a lot of the time, a lot of the postpartum books I've read are horror books because essentially, like if you think of it, like the first like woman dealing with hysteria book was The Yellow Wallpaper, which was
Hmm.
written a long time ago,
Yeah.
but it was about a woman who was trapped in a room and just
Hmm.
staring at the yellow wallpaper. And this hysteria that comes from being in a new situation that you're not ready for, prepared for, you don't like, and it's okay to like your baby and also not like the situation that you're in, on
Hmm.
top of the fact that there's this loss of mobility and sort of like a blaming on
Hmm.
the child
Yeah.
that's not, you know it's irrational, but
Yeah.
you can't help but feel that way. And then to know that the reason you have a baby is why you were selected for this apartment for a specific reason,
Hmm.
and your baby becomes this even more horrific thing.
Yeah.
And to also go on your point, Justin, about vampirism and Judaism, a lot of there's always discussions about how vampires are often like seen as like a very scary thing because sucking blood isn't kosher,
Hmm.
right? So the idea of even eating a human is like the most like unkosher thing, aside from the fact that like even just as a society, obviously cannibalism we don't support, but
No,
also
we don't stand a cannibal. No.
we don't stand, but that there's this idea of blood and of kosher killings that is not what vampires do, right?
Hmm.
So it becomes this like mega fear because not only is it stealing their child, but then there's also this like long-standing history of this unkosher um, way of killing humans, essentially. And we get glimpses of that, right? Where there's Anna going into the other apartment, which I that scene was so grotesque, I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah.
But then there's also just the scene at the we get like a brief
Oh,
glimpse
the
into like the
pantry.
party.
The pantry. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
and like the guy's like, whoa, he's blasted.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and then like
Yeah.
the actress lady like literally sucks up the entire vomit, and he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, I don't
He's
have
like, I
enough
didn't know.
drugs for this.
He's like, I didn't know it was this type of party.
Yeah.
He gets brought into the bedroom where he's
Yeah.
like, okay, this I know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm here for this. This is
Yeah.
comfortable. Wait, what is that?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I think that that scene, like the pantry scene, is before the apartment scene. So in that scene, I was like, what the fuck is she doing?
Hmm.
Because obviously I'm going into this being like, oh, they're normal vampires. They're Edward Cullen. Like I'm very used to this.
Yeah.
And then it's
Yeah.
like, no, he vomited his entire insides and she
Hmm.
swallowed it up off the floor. And I'm
Uh
like,
huh. Yeah.
Gross.
It's bad.
huh.
There were two lines in the book that I thought going out a, with those previous thoughts we had about postpartum and
Hmm.
the blame, like like the
Hmm.
resentment that you could begin to
Hmm.
feel. Um, it was when Anna was looking at the baby and like one of those intrusive thoughts comes blasting in on the page and it's just like, you ruined my life, you little shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I could vibe with that in my lowest of moments. And then there was another part where Garrett is helping Anna up, which when she I think gets stuck outside, and he brings her back inside or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. He's wheeling her up, and
When they were in the
she's like,
forest?
you need the like in the courtyard,
Yeah, the
Okay, yeah, yeah.
courtyard
yeah, the
forest
courtyard or
thing.
whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
and she's like hysterics
Mm-hmm.
and like, and it was like it was this line where it was like for the tiniest of moments he felt like um
Disgust or revulsion or whatever
disgust,
it
yeah,
was.
like
Yeah, yeah,
revulsion towards
yeah,
her, and then immediately buried it back down. But it was
yeah.
like that tiny second
Mm-hmm.
where you allow
Mm-hmm.
the intrusive thought to take hold,
Yeah,
and then you're like, no.
yeah,
And the book does this a lot where
yeah,
you would see, especially for Anna, you would see intrusive thoughts come in, and
Yeah.
then the next sentence would be, no, we're
yeah,
not doing this.
yeah,
Next thought. Like,
yeah, yeah,
I really appreciated those two moments because they felt extremely real. Like, this
yeah.
felt like a real relationship, like where you are seeing the good, where they dance together and the
Mm-hmm.
wheelchair and it's
Mm.
awkward or whatever. And then you're getting the moments where it's just like that realness
Yeah,
where not everything is always great and sometimes it's actually awful.
yeah, yeah. Because what I like is that when they have that big fight at the end, right? Which is obviously during this crazy heightened situation where she's like, I want my baby back that you gave to the vampires or whatever. But they're not, but the stuff that they're fighting about is not this crazy heightened stuff. It's just like normal relationship stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, where she's like,
You
she's
don't
like,
even Reed is like, you don't even love this baby. You don't
yeah,
even want it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like real relationship. And when she goes like, she's talking about him and the way he's feeling, and she's like, you always wanted to be special, and you always felt like you weren't special, and now these people are making you feel like you're special. So you're running to them like you're a little baby, and like this really hurtful, real relationship, sort of like fighting that they're having, where they're trying to hurt each other. Obviously, Reed ends up getting actually very hurt, but
Oh my god, I loved the ending.
I mean, when she was like, I'm good, we're getting loose," or whatever, and then she falls back down
Yeah.
the stairs. I was like, that's very good.
She's like, bye.
But yeah, like, let's go. But yeah, I like that stuff. And what I do also like, and I think Cassie talks about this at the end too, in the afterward. But I think it's very. I was thinking this even before I read that, which is that I like that. Obviously, Reed's not a saint, but I also like that he doesn't write Anna as like some sort of like saintly. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm in a wheelchair and I'm perfect and everyone is being mean to me. Like he's not doing that.
Yeah.
He's not patronizing this person because of whatever physical situation that they're in, right? He's treating those things as he's treating her as a person who has, yes, things that she justifiably can be bitter and angry and upset and anxious about, but that also there are things that she's not doing and not saying, just like, like Reed is not doing and not saying, and so there is like some fault happening, on for in both of their sides of the relationship, which I also felt
Mm-hmm.
very real. If it had just been him slowly turning into like this like
Monster.
monster, I don't think it would have felt as good. Because and that's why I think it's so important that there is that section of the book where it feels like he has realized, I messed up and I've got to fix this. This is crazy. I have to, figure out what to
Yeah.
do, and sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, not to interrupt you, but I
No,
was
it's
gonna say,
fine.
like, even both of them, like, their most selfish act in the book, which was when they had sex and they fell asleep and they heard
Mm-hmm.
their baby crying and they were like, oh, like she has to self-soothe eventually, and they
Mm-hmm.
both fell asleep. So this is both an error
Yeah.
on their parts. That is the night that their baby was like converted to
Yeah.
vampirism, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like they were both extremely selfish in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both the reason
Mm-hmm.
that their baby dealt with the gargoyle that night, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's not one or the other, and I think that that's really interesting too, where this is a moment that both of them are selfish, and it's showing how both of them are these flawed characters, and it's not
Mhm.
necessarily the mom going through postpartum that's the worst, or the
Mhm.
the father not understanding his
Mhm.
wife's postpartum and like he's being such an asshole.
Yeah.
Like they were both arguably the worst
Yeah.
that night, and
Yeah.
then this whole thing happened.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're on night 12 of not sleeping,
Yeah.
Of course,
I would just,
it's
Yeah.
a natural mistake, but in this
Yeah.
yeah,
scenario, it ends up
yeah.
being such a selfish act
Yeah.
that is the cause for their baby becoming the queen of
The queen of the building
Monster House.
vampires. Yeah, exactly. Uh, I and there are things I liked about it too, and I liked this whole thing with her being like this sort of like voiceover artist, and like that being the way that she sort of starts to realize stuff is sort of going wrong, like, and that she is an active she's actively trying to figure something out, which, and it's she's not just letting stuff happen to her,
Hmm.
right? She's not just slowly kind of revolving and going down into like this like pit of madness or whatever, right? Where she's letting everyone tell her that she's crazy, and that, eventually so either she kind of believes it or whatever. She is, even though it's partly intentionally, she's not telling Reed what she's doing. She is being like, yeah, I'm gonna let you just kind of like either think I'm a little bit crazy or not tell you, because I don't want you to do anything to put me somewhere where I can't fight for myself. But I'm not gonna just sit here and act like I don't know what I'm feeling is just based on nothing. Like there's something weird going on,
Yeah.
and I got to figure out what it is. So
So
And
I think
oh, sorry.
Garrett, in the book, I think they did a really good job subverting expectations when it
mm,
comes to that particular scenario,
mm-hmm,
because when shit starts going down, right? And the creature comes into the apartment, and then the
mm-hmm,
people come out, and she gets thrown down the stairs, or
yeah,
right? If
mm-hmm,
I'm right, like,
yeah,
and she wakes up in the hospital, and she's like vampires or whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
yeah,
100% expected this to be like, okay, my wife's got to get institutionalized, because they were like dropping hints
Yeah.
about that
oh yeah,
along the way with the way that
mm-hmm,
she was acting.
mm-hmm,
But
And the
then
other woman as well.
yeah,
within 3 pages, reads like, shit, vampires.
yeah,
Like immediately, there was
yeah,
no
yeah,
there
yeah,
was no hemming and hawing. Like, he
mm-hmm,
needs to find this out. Like, it was immediate, and I was expecting, because I at that point there's still like 110 pages left to go in the book, and
mm-hmm,
I'm like, all right, we're gonna get this thing where he doesn't realize for a while. My wife's
mm,
really sick. Nope, there's vampires when he gets home.
yeah, yeah, mm-hmm,
And
yeah,
I wonder if like we're meant to sort of believe that that's because he's working for them, so he maybe has this like understanding that things don't necessarily make sense, right? Like he's like, "Oh, this writer is really looks really young for
yeah,
when they wrote," or, "Oh, Camilla, you look so beautiful for being a grandmother," like that
mm-hmm,
type of thing. And so I wonder if like subconsciously he already had this idea.
yeah,
And then I also think like this is also meant to show, despite everything, that their relationship is pretty strong,
yeah,
because he believes her. Like
mm-hmm,
he's like, at first he's like, "Oh, she's just in a daze,"
mm-hmm,
and then something clicks and he's like, "Oh no, she was right. Like
yeah,
she's not just crazy." Whereas like I think he could have easily painted Reed as someone who like didn't believe
yeah,
his wife until the very end, like the husband and wife that are in the apartment next to them.
Yeah.
yeah,
um the wife is was that whole scene was like cry for help, and she's like, "My husband thinks I'm crazy."
mm-hmm, yeah,
And like Reed, I think Reed thinks she's going through something, but I don't think he necessarily like doesn't believe that she's at least experiencing what she says she's experiencing.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting because he's like on this crusade, right? He's like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna go talk to this rabbi. We're gonna do it, and it's like what I find fascinating about that is that the thing that turns him off of it, is just because the situation doesn't play out the way he wanted it to. He's like,
Hmm.
I want this person, and this person has their own shit they're dealing with. Like, they have their own life, they have their own problems. They're not a character in your story, Reed. Like, they're not just somebody you can. And I think he's almost playing off of that trope in these books where, like, the guy goes to see the holy person, and they solve all their problems for them, and
Yeah.
they figure it out. And instead, it's almost like the opposite. Like you know, he's hearing all the things he doesn't want to hear. There's like this reality that's getting thrown at him, right? The stuff that eventually Anna at the end kind of has to like come to terms with, right? Where I can't force this to be the way I want it to be, and that's what Reed wants, right? He wants to like sculpt it into something that the ending is right for him, or whatever. And I thought that was really interesting. That's where it came to. Like
I
if
was
you,
so
sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Bobby. No, go
No,
ahead.
I'm done.
I didn't
I'm
mean to
done.
cut you off.
No, I'm
So
done.
I the whole time I'm reading the book, I'm like, what the fuck is this rabbi like? Why did he keep showing up? Like
Yeah.
they're like this has to pay off at some point.
Mm-hmm.
At the very end, when in the last movie, he's like, "Tell me what you know about vampires." I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, this is our Deus Ex Machina."
Yeah.
Like,
Well, he's not really Des Mac. He's been there the whole time, so you
but
can't.
like his purpose is now. It's like, "Oh, I saw you at the deli. Oh, I
Yeah.
saw you in the park." Like, um,
Hmm.
yeah. So the ending of this book. Can we get into the ending a little bit? Because there's
Kelsey looks upset.
I mean, I guess.
She made one of those faces you never noticed, Justin, until you watch it back.
until I watch it back with my wife, and she's like, "Man, Kelsey's angry with you all the time. She hates when you talk."
I know it's a real struggle. I'm sure she understands how I feel.
She definitely does.
Yeah.
She
She's
sympathizes.
like, can I have her number? I really want to talk to her about these shared feelings that we have.
Yes, we could talk about the end.
So there's no happy ending in this book. That's pretty much set up with 100 pages to go. Like the baby's infected. The baby's going to be one of these people.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, how do we deal with this? I like that. Like even me, Mr. I like good endings is like, okay, like this is happening. Now what? And our main two players in the book come at this from completely different viewpoints.
Yes.
I think Reed's turning on the head felt strange. That was one of the things that I didn't really jive with.
What do you mean?
So like he's like obviously like so he talks to the actress lady, right? And he plays the bluff. Like I've been recording this whole conversation and you could kill me, that's fine. But it's going to get out there and the last thing you want is people investigating this building. So he calls her bluff and he goes upstairs with the baby. I forget the baby's name. What's the baby's name? Charlie. And he's like, obviously, we're not doing any of the things she said. We're going to get you fixed. We're going to get out of here and we're going to go get your mom. And then like 3 pages later, he's like, actually, no, I'm going to convert to vampirism, the religion of vampire, and help kill innocent people.
I mean,
like,
it's more than 3 pages, but I will say
feels like it though, because the next time like he goes and he talks to the rabbi and the next thing you know, he's fucking hiding in the closet from his wife and locking her in a sound box.
He's like,
and I'm like,
sneaky.
What's going on here? I was so confused.
But they tell you, they bring it back to the next chapter. I was confused too, but I think that's obviously that's intentional in the writing because then the next chapter he kind of goes into what happened to Reed in the time between when you last saw him and whatever happened. But for me, it's different because I feel like what Reed ends up doing at the end is much more in line with his character for the entire other part of the book, other than that, like 2 chapters where he's like, I'm going to figure out what's going on and I'm going to stop it. You know what I mean? So I think like that's why it plays for me because, you want him to be the guy who's going to, strike out on his own and be the hero and save his family. But that's not really who he is, right? He's not been like that the entire book. He's been lying to his wife for half of the book about his whole situation, and I think, like I said, when he gets in that conversation with the rabbi, the rabbi throws like real life in his face, right? My kid is dead. My wife left me. The life sucks. Like there is no God, like forget about it. And I think that dose of reality to Reed is too much for him to handle, right? He's like, I think part of it is, I know a way my kid can be safe and alive for basically forever, and my wife and I can be fine. He wants the easy way out. He wants the flip a switch.
He doesn't want to fight forever.
And my life is good, right? Because he feels like the last however many years of his life have been terrible, which a lot of it has been terrible, but he is unwilling to accept that it is his life now, right? This is his life, and he has to learn how to live with what his life is and make the best of it. And there is no switch that's going to flip that's going to make everything better again. These people are not going to fix his wife and let her live normally, like she says later, she's like, you are deluding yourself is what she says to him, like it's not going to happen. And I think that's the thing. That's why I'm okay with it, because I feel like it's that 2 chapters where he's not that way that is the outlier compared to the rest of the book.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I was gonna even say like that whole scene where he's like desperate and he's like being so cruel to her. Like he's
Yeah.
like, "What are you gonna do? Crawl down the stairs?" And she's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah."
Yeah.
Like, and he's like, "You're pathetic." And
Mhm.
like I wrote down, I'm like, this was the scariest moment in the book, I think, for
Mhm.
me. Because I was like, this is someone that she loves and trusts, and he's going delusional, right? So it's
Mhm.
like this whole book, Anna knows that she isn't, right? And that there's something creepy going on, and like you would think, and often in horror books, right, the mentally ill woman is often like the unreliable narrator, and like
Mhm.
we're meant to believe a lot of things that are just red herrings because our main female character is a drunk, or
Mhm.
she's just got out of the asylum, or some shit
Mhm.
like that, right? And then he's being so delusional in this scene and screaming at her and talking to her like he has not spoken to her the entire book, right? And I was like, this he's trying to control her, and I think that this is just another added element of like her being stuck, and he's attempting to control her and yelling at her and being violent, that I was like, this is the scariest part because she's right next to the stairs. I'm like, oh my god. But then they tumble
Mhm.
together. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
She lives.
Yeah.
So, but that was like the like in that moment I'm like, oh wow, like this is really scary. Like when and I think this might be like maybe a more like female presenting fear where like a big man is screaming at you like is probably one of the scariest realistic
Mhm.
fears that a lot of women have, because you already like you feel smaller and you feel weaker, and then she doesn't have the mobility to like run around him or move out of the way without either crawling or tumbling down the stairs, um, or him catching her wheelchair, right?
Mhm.
So I think that that was like a really, really scary moment for me. And then it occurs right before the like actual scary thing where she's
Okay.
confronted by the vampires of the building.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but by the way, I want to say, poor Georgia. That's her name, right?
Oh my God, I know.
They
She
were
was just
like,
trying to be a good
that woman was like, we
friend.
only kill bad people, and I was like, no, you don't. What about Georgia? She just walked down the fucking stairs. You
What
couldn't
did
So
let her
Georgia
go.
she
do?
she I wonder if they meant like they themselves only kill bad people, like, but this like because it's the stone creature that grabs her, right?
It's the older vampires, definitely the ones that are all
Yeah,
like
Yeah, it's the ones that are
yeah,
weird
like
and
in the
like
basement.
the ones that have like the weird backwards limbs and walk all
Yeah.
weird or whatever.
yeah.
But whatever the thing is that grabs her from behind, we don't really know. She just says like the thing that had been following her grabbed her from behind, so we don't know what that thing is. But um,
Oh my
yeah,
God. And then when Reed's like, oh, there was like a walker in the recycling,
yeah, I
I
know.
was like, she was right there.
Yeah, and then you see her. She's in the pantry with in that scene, the party scene with the pantry. She's
Wait,
in
she
there.
is?
Yeah,
Yeah, she
they
is.
so
There's
there's
like a
this.
slow, like a slight,
Yeah, he mentions like whatever, I forgot that guy's name, the drug addict guy who they
yeah,
bring, says
it's
like
okay. He didn't
this
live long.
tall blonde woman
Trainer or something.
trainer, looks like a biotic
Oh,
trainer or whatever like that. Yeah,
I got
yeah,
the tall blonde woman, but I missed the trainer part because then that would
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
connected there.
So um, but yeah, I was gonna say there was another thing I wanted to mention, but I forgot what it was.
Was it
Okay, so
about the
we want to talk
Go
about
ahead.
sorry, no, go ahead, Justin.
No,
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 you
no.
go
I
ahead.
was going to ask you, was it more about the ending? Because
Yeah, it was about the
that's what
ending.
we
I
were
had
talking about.
notes about the ending. I wanted to talk about. Um, so I I really liked that it was this very unconventional sort of chase, I guess chase sequence.
Hmm.
Like,
Sure. Yeah. We'll go with Chase.
I mean, sort of, whatever it might be. And I liked that. I like that it played out in not the way I was expecting it to play out in several of the moments that stuff was happening. And I was very happy that, not very happy, but that's the wrong word, but I thought that they did a good job setting up like the Diotemitris Earth thing and like
Hmm.
seeding it in the beginning, so it comes at the end. It's like it's a good like Chekhov's gun situation where it's like, okay, this they planted this thing earlier and it comes back, so it is obviously slightly convenient, but not like completely out of the blue that it is there, right? And that she is able to use it. And I thought that having that. I like that the ending wasn't her like killing a bunch of vampires, right? That it was this thing where I like that they weren't just like mustache twirling evil creatures, right? I like that the actress woman was sort of like, look, I get it. Like,
I liked her too,
you
like as a
know,
character.
like this is your
Yeah.
daughter. Like I know that you see this as your daughter still. So, you know, obviously you want her back. Like, you know, we don't want you to kill our mom. So if you can just you can take your kid and go. But look, this is the problem with that. You know, which leads to this you know this ending, which is right all about what is the nature of motherhood, parenthood. Like what does it mean to be good at that thing, right? What, you know, is there a set definition of it? Like, or is it like what she said, which is just like you want to make sure that your kid is able to survive and thrive at the best it can with its whatever situation it has been given in life, you know. And I thought like her finally going, I'm gonna let my mom's voice in, I'm gonna let all these voices in that I've been sort of like pushing out. Like this isn't about, and these are a lot of stories, right, about like trauma and depression and all these kind of things, anxiety, whatever they are, that you have to sort of stop trying to push these things out and realize that they're part of you and try to make them work for you, and however that, you know, can work, you know. But I like that she's like, yeah, but you guys aren't getting out of this thing fucking scot-free. Right? You guys are not like you said, she said, I think she says you're gonna have to start over just like I am, or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's a punishment for what you did. You're not just gonna be able to take my kid and be like, oh, we're gonna live happily ever after in this weird living building. So that's all the stuff I liked, you know, about the ending. And I called it like as soon as they as soon as the first chapter happened with Frank, the first time they show him, or first time they actually have his perspective. Again, this is another Stephen King thing, and if you haven't read,
Yeah, I guess.
if you haven't read it, especially it, he is like Henry Bowers, like up and down. Like that is who he is in almost every way.
That is such a thick book.
I had an idea for a vlog, but I think I'm gonna do it like next month or maybe in June.
Okay, all right. Are you gonna read that
This month? No,
month?
it was in this month, but I think I'm gonna do it next
Ooh.
month or
Okay.
the month after. I don't have time,
Okay.
I think, this month.
I look
for
forward
what
to
I
hearing
wanted
your
to
thoughts on it.
do. I know.
But it's very much like it's a very Henry Bowers type situation where I was like, this character is going to come back and they're going to attempt. He's either going to really screw up something good, something that they're trying that the good guys are trying to do, you know, the heroes are trying to do good, or he's going to unintentionally help the you know the heroes of the story.
That's where I thought it was going when he shows up on the floor. I'm like, he's gonna save her,
which he kind of did.
He did,
but he did save her, but it wasn't like he meant to.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
No, he didn't. But it's like a nice like revert.
Yeah,
like he wanted to kill her.
He out loud calls her roller bitch when he sees her in that moment.
He let the inner voice speak.
He did let the inner voice speak.
I don't feel like he ever shut it up.
Yeah,
like
true. That's true.
Every perspective from him.
So Justin, what were your I told you that I liked about the ending. What were your issues with the ending? Because I know you said you didn't like it.
Like, you know, because I'm coming at it from like a parent's perspective, and I was just like, could I really just let Jorah not just let him go, but let him go like grow up to eat people? Like,
First of
I just
all,
don't think I could do it.
He would be a king.
Exactly. He would be a king.
Second of all, he would be creepy.
Yeah. You would have if you brought him home, you'd have a vampire.
He would
boy.
eat your insides.
No, but my
Did you
point
see
was,
what he did to those
yeah,
two
no,
people?
I know. I'm not saying that I would like bring him home or anything like that. Like,
He would crawl
but
on
it
the
just felt
ceiling.
it felt like it was one of those things where it's like the right thing to do. Like what I was thinking was going to happen was that she was going to kill the baby, like put it out of its misery. That's what I thought.
But it isn't miserable. That was the point, right?
Yeah, but
that's the
yeah,
point it's
it's
getting
not,
across. Is it's not miserable. It's actually very happy.
It's very happy, and it's going to eat a whole bunch of innocent people.
Well,
like,
maybe not. It may not all innocent
yeah, let
people.
her thrive.
It just felt it felt hollow. Like, yeah, I'm gonna. It's not like it's not like a story where it's like, I was separated from my baby, and my baby now has this other adopted family, and like, even though I'm its real mother, it has another mother. It's like, no, your baby is now like a demonic little herring that's going to eat people. Like at that point, maybe we should have a conversation of what's best for the world and not the baby.
How could she kill it though? How could she kill it? You can't kill the vampires.
Oh, I guess yeah.
Like the little tongue, she would eat, the baby would just eat her.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just felt weird. That's
there was
all.
No
like
turning back.
It was definitely weird. Yes, yeah. I'm not disagreeing with you.
It was just like
weird.
It felt like.
I don't know. I support women's wrongs, and when those women are the baby.
My favorite part. My favorite part of the book.
Truth, you know.
My favorite part of the book is when she kills the big queen. That's the actual building.
Yeah.
And Vera with like a hammer sticking out of her head.
Yeah.
Is like, take me, eat me, eat me.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that part too because something that I always really like in vampire stories specifically is the ones like the people that allow themselves to be controlled by
the thralls.
The thralls of the parties and the vampire lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think here it was really interesting.
Vampire groupies.
Because they could have made Vera a vampire. But I think Vera had to be young enough where they had to sort of validate that they need these babies because they aren't having any new vampires, right?
And Vera work with adults.
Yeah, it doesn't work with
and
adults.
Vera would be too young, right? For too young of the vampires to be one. But too old to have been converted by the time she would have found the job or whatever, right? Yeah. The creepiest scene was when it was this whole thing when they're and then she saw the other babies crawling on.
The babies crawling.
I was
on walls. Well, that's when Frank is like, "What the fuck?"
Frank, honestly, I was like, "This is my uncle."
But you have to hear it with that Brooklyn accent.
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck?
Because he sees the other creatures and the big creatures. He's like, "Yeah, what the fuck? Yeah, get the fuck away from me!" And then he sees until he sees the little babies crawling on the wall.
Honestly, relatable because I think kids in horror are so creepy. You know when you see things where parents I don't know, on TikTok sometimes they'll be like, the creepiest thing is when it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you get woken up and your child just waiting at the edge of the bed. I would cry.
You get used to it fast.
Yeah.
It's when they're looking. It's when they're looking at the baby monitor.
Yeah, and their
right
eyes are
at you.
White. Yeah,
you're looking at that. That got me a few times.
Dad.
I would cry.
There's this
children have always scared me.
This is an aside, but there's this hilarious. I don't know if you've seen it on social media.
I know it. I think I know what you're going to.
Of this person going into their baby's room and they're looking at the monitor on their phone, and they're going to see touch the baby, their baby, and then they look at the phone. They're so tired. They look at the phone and they see themselves on the phone. They think it's another person, and they they freak out. They start screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been there, man. I've been there. It's the way your brain works in those situations is insane.
I think the part, even all that, I was like, okay, I can get behind this or whatever. It's the very end when she's just like, yeah, I gave the baby to my mom. No one's gonna follow up on this.
I mean, who's gonna follow up on it?
I guess because she's kind of taking herself out of society or whatever, and then the husband
understands her too, right?
And the husband just run away to go do music or whatever. But then she goes and visits them.
Yeah, she puts her hand she puts her hand on the
and that part to me was just all right, this is
see her baby.
Yeah, I know, but the baby is
humanity.
The baby is a building that's eating people.
Listen, we all start somewhere.
Listen, Justin, if one of your kids grew up to be a psychopath or whatever and was in jail, would you not visit?
Yeah, but they couldn't be hurting anybody anymore.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's the same situation, you know.
Also,
well, you don't know that. Have more faith.
Yeah, well, Garrett is standing because she's talking about
Garrett?
He looks like
who's Garrett?
Reed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh.
That's a Mets player, Garrett Reed.
Oh,
I just put those two together.
You've called him Garrett a couple of times.
I thought you were talking about the concierge.
Me too.
That's what I thought you were talking about. Smiler.
Reed.
Yeah.
Reed.
Reed. Yeah.
So he is standing.
Yeah.
At the ends.
She said something about it. They gave him just enough to stand up or whatever.
Yeah, but he walks weird.
So he talks she mentions he looks like the early versions of Batman, where when he wanted to turn his head, he had to turn his whole body, and it was just and I watched movies with that man. Yeah. Oh well, and then goes and touches the building, and so I was like, I don't.
What would you? What else is she gonna do?
Just
You
move
know?
on, move away, never look back.
She also has to like, yeah, like kind of move, or at least like distance herself from the scenario to get over it and like move on,
Yeah.
right? And even like what was really interesting is that I feel like Nat Cassidy like slyly explained like the doorman and who those people were
Mm-hmm.
in so few words, right? Like
Yeah.
even in the final, like I think it was like a news article or something like that, it was like, oh, I went to go talk to them, and like there's a new guy and he doesn't speak ever since this building went up, and like I don't know
Mm-hmm.
who he is. And then you get her chapter where she's like, oh well,
Yeah.
TBT, I guess, like, and she just moves on. And I think like that's subtly like talking, okay, like these creepy human people in the building
Mm-hmm.
are like, are they men from other wives who attempted to kill
I'm
them?
assuming yes. That's
Like,
definitely
you know,
or
so
enthralls. I think are both because the
yeah,
Smiler seems too like
aware.
aware and thinking like he seems more like Vera, right?
Hmm.
Like he seems more like he's like just loves these fucking vampires, you
Yeah.
know, and is willing
And
to
Reed
do
could have
whatever.
became that, and I think that's what's interesting too, is that
Yes.
he ends up being that anyways,
Yeah.
but not in the way that he originally
Yeah.
intended.
I was really thinking there was going to be some sort of sexy scene between him and the old actress
Me
lady because it
too.
kept building to that.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like,
And it's
come
not like
on,
the book
Reed.
shied away from
No.
sex,
No.
I'm like, come on, Reed, do it,
Mm.
and he didn't. So I was like, okay, cool.
but just hot old lady.
Yeah. Apparently
Listen,
very hot. Like
yeah,
for the description, I was like,
listen.
she seems like she's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A gilf for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. A girl for sure. I will say, I know I like realistic details. I don't know if I needed the detail when he's about to go down on her. She's like, I haven't bathed in a while. I'm like,
That
I don't
felt
know if
real.
it
That
is
felt super.
real.
It
It's
is
very
super real.
It's very real. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just like, I don't know if I need this comment right now.
Also, like, I say that for no reason. Like, I'll be like, ah, please, I'm not my perfect self. Like, so I felt like even if it was a day, I would have been like, ah.
Yeah, no, but I I think I'm a sucker for horror stuff to begin with. Like it's something I really am into, and I've watched enough and read enough of it that
Mhm.
I think like it's like when you watch and read or engage in anything, a lot of it you tend to start, you know, when something is different or something gives you something like that's sort of like the thing that you like but puts a twist on it. I think
Mhm.
you end up giving more value to it because it's part of like this sort of stock of things that you have in your brain that you've experienced. So that might be why I like it a little bit more than I think both of you
Yeah.
do.
I
Because
also never
yeah.
watched Rosemary's Baby. One, because as you guys know, I don't watch movies before 1990, and
You and Justin are the same. It's okay.
and two, as Justin, maybe you feel the same, as a raised Roman Catholic, exorcisms and shit like that still scare me to my core. That is the scariest thing ever. Demons, vampires, I'm okay with. I'm like, you know what? They're not real. Demons, we don't know. Can't confirm. I
Kelsey,
confirm.
I
The
swear to
priest
God,
says it's real.
I swear to God, Bobby can attest to this. For a very long time, I struggled with this type of stuff in
Yeah,
every type of media,
Mhm.
I
video
can't watch
games,
demons.
everything.
Yeah,
Doom
And
2016.
Doom 2016, I was like, I just can't. I can't get with
I can't do
this.
it. Yeah,
But
ghosts. I'm like,
as
no, thank you.
as I've gotten further and further away from religion, I'm like opening up those
Yeah,
doors and being like, come to me.
I
Maybe not
still
like
have a
that
bit of.
because
Yeah, it's okay. I was trying to move past it, but it's fine. I was gonna say like I still have a little bit of like Catholic guilt, where
Mhm.
I'm like, when I'm
I
reading
get
this,
it.
I'm like, God needs to protect me because they're gonna possess me. Like,
That's so funny. I mean, I was raised Roman Catholic as well.
of course,
But
from Long Island.
I'm Irish and Italian, so that was I had no choice in either
Yeah, no,
either way
you
I
have
was gonna
absolutely no
go. There was
choice.
no way to go. I was gonna be Roman Catholic no matter what happened. But I guess like I think because of that, right? I think that stuff scares me more than a lot of other
Yeah,
stuff. But I like that, right? That's stuff that like, gets me excited because like that's why I love The Exorcist so much. It's
Y-
like it's
yeah.
like
But
this shit
It's
scares the
definitely
shit
what
out of me.
scares me
Like
the
I feel
most. Yeah.
unsafe watching
Yeah,
this. Like,
literally same. I'm like, I could be possessed at any moment right now.
Yeah.
Like if I
Possession
like
stuff is
it,
the stuff that definitely scares me the
yeah,
most out of
like
all of it.
Yeah.
it. I'm like unrealistic. Dream spider clown
But
demon, like
but
not
you're
real.
terrified of clowns.
I am. That's the point of my vlog. But I am terrified of clowns, which is why it scares me. But it doesn't scare me because of like the like dream other universe like demon. That's not the part that scares me. It's the clown part.
Mm.
With like the exorcism or like any of these like possession movies, it's the fact that like something from hell has possessed you, and like the little bit that's still like a little scared of hell that's inside of me is like,
Well,
be careful.
now I know what we got to read.
Do the sign of the cross. But reading, see, that's another thing. Reading, I'm not as, it doesn't
Mm.
terrify me as I'm very, very, very visual for things that scare me. Like if I am reading something, I'm okay. If I'm writing something, I'm okay. If I'm watching something and it's like the scene that's happening paired with the music, that's what will scare me. So it's
Mhm.
like when I watched like a lot of movies I watched in high school and like CJEP when I was like smoking the devil's lettuce. Um I would like sit there like literally like blocking my ears and blocking my eyes. Like I would be like with my thumbs in my ears and my eyes like this. And I would watch it like this. So like a lot of like demon possession movies I've seen like through the slits of my hands.
Have you ever
And even
seen
like
The
silly
Exorcist?
ones. Are you insane?
I don't. I'm
No,
just
I
asking.
like the scariest one I ever watched was actually a like twist on the exorcism for like um Judaism. Actually, that one was so petrifying.
What was it called?
Hold on, I'm writing it. And the first and second season of American Horror Story.
Mm,
The second
okay.
season takes place in an insane asylum,
Yeah, I know that's the best
controlled
season.
by the church. It's the best season.
Yeah,
Was it also the season that scared the shit out of me?
it's very scary.
Yes.
It's
See,
very.
like the witch season, the third season didn't scare me.
It didn't scare me. That season was also good. That season was
Yeah,
good.
that season, that's my favorite season.
2 and
the
3 are
witch
very
season.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first one scared me, but it was because the haunted house is a lot of like jump scares.
Yes. Yeah.
So jump scares will always scare you.
Yeah.
But like the second season, I couldn't. The exorcism. Okay, wait. Let me actually concentrate. Judaism.
I'm trying to think of good
exorcism.
exorcism movies. Oh, The Exorcism.
Okay, watch this. It might not actually be scary. I'm just letting you know.
That's fine.
It might be because I was high.
I can
And
match
I'm already
those
scared.
I can
I
match
think
that
it's
scenario
this.
and watch it.
Okay, perfect. I think it was. I just saw the girl. It's called The Possession.
Okay, I think I've seen that.
2012.
Okay.
I just saw the
Possession,
girl.
2012
Vintage
film.
year.
Oh
That's-
god, that picture is not nice.
Exactly. And imagine being high.
I think I might have seen. I can't remember if I've seen this or not. I've seen so
Is
many
it
movies.
Hereditary a possession film?
I don't know because I've never
Yes.
seen it and I don't want to get spoiled on it. So shh.
Oh no.
The Exorcism of Emily Rose is a really
No.
good one.
I watched that. You know what? I actually.
Because
think
that one
I
is like this is based on a true story. That's
Yeah,
that
I
one
hate
is,
those
like,
one- and I used to believe that.
framed.
Obviously, like when I was actively
Yeah.
going to church with my mom.
Mm-hmm. That was really
I
good.
was
That's
like,
Scott
huh.
Derrickson. Justin.
Mm.
Yeah,
Doctor Strange.
2005. I think I watched this in.
I like how we got
theaters.
here. This is great.
This is. I mean,
What a
this is
tangent.
natural.
I like our.
I still haven't
tangents.
watched that My Best Friend's Exorcism movie that's on Prime or whatever.
Oh, I watched the trailer for it.
Yeah.
It looked like a
It
teen
looks
movie,
too
like
too
too
silly.
cheesy. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, Bobby, know
So-
what we could do?
What?
We could also take part of the Devil's Lettuce
I
and
know.
watch it on my couch together.
We could. I would love to do that. I would
Oh
love
my
to
god,
do that.
I would pee my pants. I think.
From laughter.
I would love to
No.
absolutely do that. Justin, what have you read other than this book in between?
Oh yeah, we're getting into the final segments.
So
We
I
got a
finished
bunch.
I finished the Mistborn trilogy,
Mhm.
which I am loving
He gave
very
5
much.
stars to both the second and third book. So
Those are the best ones.
I haven't
Yep.
read either of them yet, but
I'm pulling up my Goodreads because I can't remember off the top of my head. There's been quite a few.
I finished The Fires of Vengeance, the second of the sequel to the book we read last time. I told Kelsey, I was like, I'm not saying you're gonna adore it. I was like, but all of the problems you have with the first book, he kind of addresses in the second book. Am I right, Justin?
Yes.
Like the lack
I'm
of
willing.
the lack
Yeah.
of female
Oh,
fighters.
yeah, for sure.
There
Good
are
lord.
2 fucking badass fucking female fighters in the second book. There's more romance. There's more political stuff. There's less fighting. There's still a good amount of fighting, but
there's
less
definitely
fighting?
There's less fighting.
He's better at being like,
King.
he's better at being like, and there was a fight, and not being like, and let me describe the fight for 7 pages.
Thank fuck.
I will say though, it does follow. There is one battle at the beginning of the second book where I was like, okay, I don't need to hear this whole battle. Like, you know, it was much like the battle at the beginning of the first book. I was like, just cut to the part where he fucking fights the person he came there to fight, who does like that the warlord fight, Justin.
Yeah.
And the warlord does like the Loki.
Oh yeah.
A bunch of different people. But I thought it was great. By the end, I was like, yeah, let's go.
All right. So it's actually been a little bit of a slow month for me. I've been traveling a lot in the last month, but I read
6 books this month.
It's been a light month. A World of Curiosities, which is like an airport book. Apparently, though, it was number 18 in a series. But
Louise Penny.
Yeah, but you could read it without reading any of the other ones. It worked out fine.
And you enjoyed it?
I liked it. Yeah.
It's like a mystery novel.
Yeah, it was like what's those movies that we watched?
They take place in Quebec.
I'm aware.
He read one of them.
I read one where they mentioned that.
It's like a Poirot type of thing?
Yes, it reminds me. It reminded me of that a lot. He was my visual for because the detective is an older gentleman.
Okay.
Armand Gamesh.
Yes. So I read, as I mentioned before, Hidden Pictures, which was on my to read list for a while.
You didn't love it though.
I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars.
Yeah, I heard it's like middle of the road.
Yeah. I read The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. I liked that book. What did I give that? 4 stars? I gave it 3 stars. I liked it.
Oh, you're very stingy
Your
with your
rating
stars.
system.
I loved it. I gave it 3 stars.
No, I liked it. So like, here's the thing. It's like, for me, 3 stars is I read it and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like
6. It's like, it's good. Like
it's good.
Super
like
solid.
It's a passing
grade.
Yeah.
Anything above that, like 5 stars is like, to me, is like,
well, yeah,
I'm going to recommend this to everybody. 4 stars is like, this book is very, very, very good.
Yeah.
I don't think any like the book that we were discussing tonight is on the low end, I'll say, of 3 stars. And maybe The God of Endings is like on the high ends of 3 stars. Like,
okay.
And then, so yeah, I read The Hero of Ages, which was the last Mistborn book. And then I read Nestlings, and I just started Ninth House.
Cool.
So I've actually had a slow month this week. I read The Fires of Vengeance.
I actually
I read Nestlings, obviously. And I read a nonfiction book. I read the MCU book, the Marvel Studios book.
Oh, yes.
By Joanna Robinson, which was great. It was great. It was also really great to listen to an audiobook because it was like listening to a 17-hour long podcast. So it was great.
I love audiobooks.
Yeah, it was great.
Especially nonfiction audiobooks.
I will say that the audiobook for I didn't listen to much of the Nestlings audiobook. I listened to a little bit of it because I got it from the library. It was good. It was good. The MCU one book was very good. The guy who reads the Burning Trilogy books is just like amazing. The guy who did Fires of Vengeance, same guy who did Rage of Dragons, just
I really liked him
unbelievably good audiobook narrator. And I started the Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, but I'm only very little bit because I had to kind of put it on pause because I needed to finish Nestlings. So
okay.
That's what I'm gonna read next. But it's on my I have it on the side by my bed. It's what I'm reading next. So that's what's coming.
I also had a slow reading month.
She only read 17 books.
4, 5.
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm on my 6th book.
Okay.
It's because I read A Crown of Swords, which is book 7 in the Wheel of Time series, which was trash.
I saw you gave it
and
2 stars.
Gave it 2 stars.
Yeah.
I hated this one. I was so disappointed by it.
You liked the last one though, right? You were finally like, oh, it's finally getting good, and then okay.
And then this one was trash, and I hated it. But the next one, I have it here. It's a lot shorter. It's this little small one here. So I'm like, yes,
okay,
thank God. Because this is what is referred to as like the slog. So even people who love Wheel of Time are like, yeah, these books are trash. These are ass. But you have to just get through them. And so I was literally Redditing. I'm like, can I skip them? What do I need to know? And people were like, there's like one sentence that's said in the 80th chapter. I was like, oh. So anyways,
I feel like when I talk to you about books. When I'm like, can I read
oh,
this author's book? And you're like, well, you really should go back and read 7 other books
I said that
by this author.
That's Brandon Sanderson specifically.
No, you said that.
Oh, hang on a second. I texted Kelsey the other night. in usual Kelsey fashion, it takes 48 hours to get a response. Where she's like, "Oh crap, I forgot about this."
Yeah, it's because I literally open them, read them, I smile. I get distracted because of my ADHD, and I'm like, a butterfly.
Mhm.
And then when I'm like, oh, Justin's so rude, he didn't answer me because I think you didn't answer me, and I go back to tell you off, and I'm like, oops.
My bad. So I go to tell her, I'm like, "Oh, I finished," because you haven't started. I had no one else to talk to about this. I was like, "Oh, I finished Mistborn." And I was like, I'm gonna want to read Wax and Wayne, the next 4 books.
Yeah.
I had thoughts about Mistborn, but I was like, I want to read more. Point me in a direction. And Kelsey was extremely
Helpful.
helpful. Extremely Kelsey helpful. Read this, 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 and this. Start at the very beginning, though.
Okay, listen.
Just
If
read The
you-
Way of Kings. Why? What's the thing? What's the problem here?
Nothing. You guys just won't have the best experience. Okay.
Just let us read the books we want to read. This is like when I asked you if I should read Yellowface, and you were like, "But you should read the other 55 books that R.F. Kuang wrote."
First of all, I said, yes, of course you can, but I think the Poppy War trilogy is her best work.
Yeah,
Because I feel like if you
wasn't
guys
the
were to
question I
read
asked
one
you. I didn't ask
thing-
you if I should read a trilogy of fantasy books. I asked, should I read this new
I asked-
book?
I asked, "What's the Sunlit Man?"
Oh my
And
God,
she's like, "Oh, that's his newest
haters.
book." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Is it in a part of a series?" She's like, "No, it's standalone." I was like, "Oh, sweet." She's like, "You get spoiled though. You get spoiled on other things. There's
Yeah.
Easter eggs
Well,
in there.
like you won't know, I guess, because you're reading it.
It's fine." When I was in Vancouver, I was at an arcade bar, and the people next to us had it on the table, and I was going to ask them about it, but
You should have, and they would have told you the exact same thing that I'm saying. You should have actually. Canadians unite.
Vancouver people were so much nicer than Montreal people.
I find that's very common that people
Mhm.
say. I think it's like our European like influence,
Mm-hmm.
like the Parisian influence. So we're like a bit more rude.
Yeah, let's be specific. It's not the European influence; it's the French influence.
Yeah. It's like honestly, when the thing is that they're 10 times more rude than we are because we still have the like little Canadian like.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
because
And they're like,
most of Europe is known for being
"Sérieux,
extremely
chérie?"
welcoming. That's the thing
Yeah.
that most people say about most of Europe is extremely welcoming. Like if you go to Italy, oh,
He's doing
They
the
love you.
hands.
Yeah, they love you.
They love you.
They're like, oh my god, come over here.
You try to
that-
speak one
That was
word of
Brooklyn.
You try to speak one word of Italian, they're like, "Oh, I love you."
Oh, bellissima.
I
Can
speak
I-
English. Don't worry. You know.
I want one quick thing
Yeah.
about Frank in the book.
Mm-hmm.
There's this scene where Frank is calling people, and it
Mhm.
is the most stereotypical
Oh yeah.
Brooklyn thing I've
Mhm.
ever seen in my life. Hey, Marty.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
who
so
works
they're like,
who works
"That's my
electric
uncle."
over at the at whatever the building's called?
Yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah, it's John.
Deptford.
All right, the Deptford. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's John. All right. What
Yeah.
do you? No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah, that's my uncle.
ridiculous.
Did I say I want to do this? Just stop being an idiot,
Yeah,
man.
he was very Italian coded. Like,
Yeah,
I
oh,
was
yeah.
like,
Oh
There's
yeah.
no way. His name was Frank. There's no
Frank.
way he's not fucking Italian. Get out of here.
as soon as they said his name was Frank and he was like a little bit racist, I was like, oh
Yeah,
god.
he's drinking, wearing a fucking white undershirt, tank
Oh,
top.
yeah.
undershirt.
Listening to Tucker.
Listen to Tucker. He's an Italian guy from Italian, and I'm talking like, oh, my parents lived in Brooklyn. My grandfather lived in
Italian,
Brooklyn.
yeah.
Like I didn't move to Brooklyn. My family's been here since we came off the
Yeah.
boat from Italy. Brooklyn.
We still root for the Dodgers.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, do we want to hear about what we're doing next month?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. Oh my god, I need to prepare.
The Overstory by Richard Powers is what we're doing.
Damn it.
I have to buy it.
I'll have to buy it too.
Mm.
That's so funny because are you gonna buy it?
Yeah, I was the one that recommended the Overstory to Bobby.
Well, no, Mike Mahardy from the
Yes.
Fire Escape
But Mike
podcast.
Mahardy told me, and I then told you.
No, I
after
listened-
Mike
I
Mahardy
listened to
also
Mike Mahardy
told
talk
you.
about it.
Children.
Yeah, so there's a couple books I had in mind, but I feel like there's gonna most talk about with this one. It's been on my like shelf for the longest, which is really the one that really kind of put it over the top for me. I was like, I need to read this book. I've had it for a while now.
It's also recommended by Keanu Reeves. Everybody.
Yes, it's also
It's-
recommended by Barbara Kingsolver.
Ooh.
Who is that?
That's the one she wrote Demon Copperhead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's a Pulitzer Prize winning novel. This is our first Pulitzer Prize winning novel that we're reading for the book club.
Look, guys, we're really
Who's Clara
expanding
and
the
the Sun?
syllabus.
Clara and the Sun was really well.
Oh yeah, maybe it did.
But
It
I
was
think Clara and the Sun was Man Booker, if I'm not mistaken.
okay. It won some prize.
I think so.
Yes.
No, I don't even know if it won.
Oh.
I think it was nominated. But let me confirm. You go ahead.
Anyway, I don't really. I know that it's like a very esoteric, like kind of story about like
It was a Man Booker.
nature and stuff. I'm not. I'm intentionally
It's
not.
the environment.
The environment, yes.
Yeah.
Not really. I don't really want to know really what it's fully about because I want to be surprised when I'm reading it. But I'm excited to dive into it. The other options were the runner up was this book called The Secret Hours by Mick Herron, who is also he writes the Slow Horses books, which is also a series on Apple TV, a TV series. It's like a spy series.
Bobby loves it.
I love it. I think it's like best show on one of the best shows on TV right now. But in the end, I was like,
who's this actor? I recognize him. It's Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman.
I was like, oh yeah, from Batman.
Yeah, he's wonderful in it. He's hilarious in it. But you know, I think that book would be great. But in the end, I'm always like books that are very like that book, or I was thinking about a Riley Sager book. They're very like plot sort of mystery dependent, and I just didn't know how much we were gonna have to talk about when we brought them up. So that's the reason why I kind of didn't float towards them. There was a couple of books I had like in my mind, but I didn't want to pick another King book because I picked one not that long ago, and we just
Which
did a
one
horror.
would you have picked?
I don't really know. Revival was one I was thinking about, or Billy Summers was another one I was thinking about.
I would love to start that. The Doctor Sleep.
I would read the shit out of Doctor Sleep.
He has Doctor Sleep. I got it from him when I was in London.
That was
I have to read The Shining first, though, don't I?
You have to. Yeah, you should read The Shining first.
Well, I bought it, so
Well, you know what it's about, though, too. So
but this is what I would say is that
here's Johnny. That's about it.
Like unless you have watched like the early 2000s Steven Weber miniseries, you would still need to read the book because there's so much stuff that happens in the book that doesn't happen in this Kubrick movie that I think if you read Doctor Sleep, you would be like, what the fuck is this? You know, so I think you would need to read it. But
so we would have to do we have to read this also before Mr. Mercedes?
Mr. Mercedes is a whole different series.
It's a whole different thing. It's not related.
No,
because
Mr. Mercedes is like a mystery, a detective novel series.
Yes, but aren't The Shining, Mr. Mercedes, The Outsider, and Holly, his new book, aren't they like all related?
No.
Is The Outsider The Outsider's not part of that, right?
Yes, it is.
I don't remember I don't remember a character named Holly in The Outsider.
Well, she's there.
It's the Bill Hodges trilogy is the one you're talking about, which is Mr. Mercedes, Finders Keepers, and End of Watch. Those are the three.
Yeah.
That's where Holly comes from. She comes from those three books.
So she's not in The Outsider.
I don't think she's in The Outsider. I don't think
guys, don't
I'm not saying you're wrong.
As a woman and two men.
You cannot use that to get out of and win every argument. No, I will not allow that.
Is The Outsider?
She is in there. She is in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was wrong. Look at that. See?
She's originally from Mr. Mercedes, Finders Keepers, End of Watch. She later appears as a major supporting character in The Outsider.
Maybe they didn't, because I watched The Outsider on HBO, and I don't remember that character, but
she is.
Maybe
Cynthia Erivo plays her.
All right.
Oh, look at that. The woman is right again. Always being spoken over.
Though I don't think The Outsider is necessarily connected to the three Bill Hodges books. I think she just kind of persists throughout them. I haven't read any of those books, which is why I know you
can read them all separately.
You can.
But like, you know how I am with
I know how you are.
But I also, for me, with King, I wouldn't do it either because there's just so much. Yeah. Neither of you have read through all the Dark Tower books, but like
I have to start the Dark Tower books. That was my plan this year, and instead I'm reading all of Mistborn.
But you know, those books as well, like there are other books that sort of spindle off from those books in his repertoire that you can read without reading the Dark Tower books and vice versa, but you get more out of each of them.
So technically what you're saying is that we should read the Dark Tower stuff first.
I mean, I don't know how much it's involved with like the Bill Hodges stuff. There is a series. If you can easily online look up a list of books that are Dark Tower like tangential, adjacent. Like either they have some characters that cross over or even bigger. But there's a book called like Insomnia, which came out I
Yes.
think in the
Yeah.
late 90s, that is great on its own. I think it's one of his best like that era of work, but it is so tied into the end of the Dark Tower, that the ending of the Dark Tower is much better if you read Insomnia before you read the end of the Dark Tower.
Insomnia, the one with Robin Williams?
No. It's different thing. But yeah,
That is Insomnia, though, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was like, how does this have to do with the Dark
Al
Tower?
Pacino. No. It's a totally different story. Insomnia, the book is very cool. It's about like an elderly man who starts seeing these. It's a really interesting book. But yeah, so that's the thing about King. I was trying to find a book that was not associated with any of that stuff, so that if we read it, it could just be like on its own, and that it wasn't 1,000 pages long. What's the other part of?
Okay, well, Justin, when you get to book 3 of the Dark Tower, whenever you start it, you have to tell me.
Okay.
Because I'm at book 3. I'm at the Wastelands.
The Wastelands,
All right.
which is
I have the first book.
you'll read the first book very quickly.
Yeah,
And
and
then-
honestly, it's not that good.
Listen, just let's black out Kelsey for a second. No, I mean it's the thing
stars.
about the Gunslinger is that it's like it was published as a series of like novellas or
Yeah,
short
that's why I hate
stories
it.
over a bunch of different magazines like that, because it was before he was famous, basically. That it was like when he was still up and coming, and then he took those stories and sort of made them into a book.
Okay.
A very short book, so it's very much just like it almost feels like if it was a book he had written 5 years later, it would have been the prologue of a book. That's kind of what it is in many ways. But it has an amazing first line. It has one of the best first lines in all of books. Anyway,
Apparently, I don't have it. I have to buy it.
what?
It was not one of the books that I bought. The
What?
Gunslinger.
That was the first Dark Tower book. You bought that book way back on Book Outlet, didn't you?
Oh
Yeah, you
yeah,
bought
no,
that
I
a
see it.
long
I see
time,
it. Yeah,
yeah.
I got it. Okay, I was
Mhm.
looking in the wrong spot.
Anyway, so yeah, and then yeah, so that's why I picked that. And then we just did horror as well, so I didn't want kind of picking a King or picking like a Grady Hendrix. I wasn't like sure, but we earmarked how to sell a haunted house, right?
Well, there's the Southern book.
Yes,
Club
but I'm
Guide
talking
to
about
Slaying
something in the
Vampires,
future.
But that's not what we're. Yeah,
for
How
in
to
the
Sell a
future.
Haunted House, I think, was the one that we were like, okay, we'll read that one together.
Yeah, so read that one together. So we'll make sure we'll make sure we keep that off of our
Yeah.
reading.
Well,
our
I have
story
to
list.
read. I have to read the Southern Book Club.
I have to read that too.
I have to read that too.
And I have to read the Final Girl
Support
support group as well.
I love that book. It was so good.
The book was good.
Justin thought it was okay, Kelsey.
I gave it 3 stars.
Well, I don't know with you because like every reading is different. You always surprise me. You're like, oh yeah, I really love that book, but I skim read like 45 pages
Kelsey.
in the middle, but it's also 5 stars. So it's like I never know. Like you're like
I
3
got it.
stars. I'm like, who knows? Who knows what that means in this mystical?
How about I've gave Horror Store 5 stars, and
I
I'm
think
pretty
so.
sure I gave My
My
Best Friend's
Best Friend's
Exorcism
Exorcism-
4.
They're both
4 or
5
5,
stars. They're
yeah.
both 5-star books to me.
Yeah, they were really good. They were both really
He
good.
is so good. I know we're talking about him, but like he's so good
We
at
always
endings.
talk
The endings are so good.
The endings are his endings
He's
are
so
extremely
good.
good,
At endings,
which is where most writers struggle,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
King.
And it just like he's very good at being like, I just love whoever this like main character is. By the end of the book, I'm like, I would die for you. Like
Yeah.
whatever it is,
The Final Girl support group was so good.
Mm.
And I liked the like ending to, and like the last like.
I know you didn't love the
50.
Riley Sager book. Was that your first Riley Sager book?
Yes,
or-
it was.
Okay.
It was Final Girls. I didn't like it because I didn't find it to be like. I didn't find it to make sense.
Okay. That's a
Um,
problem.
Like the ending, like the
Okay.
the actual like killer. Like I was just like,
Were there a lot of twists or
okay.
just like one twist?
oh, did you not read it?
No, I haven't read it.
Oh, okay. There's like a couple twists.
Okay. So whenever you get, I know you won't get there for a while because it's his most recent book, but the only one left or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Is that the one with the red and blue cover?
Yeah, that's with the house on the cover.
You gave me a Riley Sager book. I forget which one.
No,
it
that was I gave you Home Before
For Dark.
or something.
Yeah, Home Before Dark. That's it.
Because Amazon sent me 2 copies for some reason. I'm like,
Oh my God,
only
that's
ordered
the
one.
best.
Yeah. But the only one left, like, it has a wild amount of twists. When you think you're like, okay, there's the twist, and then it's like, no, no,
Mm.
no, no, no. We got
This
another
twist has a twist.
This twist has a twist, and this twist that had a twist has a twist, and this twist that had a twist that has a twist. Oh, there's
Yeah.
another twist. Like
See,
it
that's
just
how I
keeps
felt
going.
about the end of Final Girl Support Group.
That's like his thing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't like for me, it was like a joke that goes on for a long time where you're like, this is really good, and then you're like in the middle, you're like, this kind of sucks. But then by the end, I was like, I'm back in.
For Riley Sager?
Yeah, because you've gone so crazy with how many twists you've done that I just have to applaud you for the bit that you are conducting. On
Yeah,
this one.
that's how it was at the end of Grady
Okay.
Hendrix's book.
Yeah.
Like there was, it was like I was,
Okay.
yeah, I was literally like, like
I
even
told
in
Justin about Horror Store. I was like,
Yeah.
got to the end, and I was like, before like the epilogue, and I was like, I'm a little disappointed that like that's how it ended. And then the epilogue, I was like, let's fucking go.
Let's get me a sequal to this
Yeah.
right now.
yeah. And I feel like that's the thing with Grady Hendrix's books. I find is that like there could always be a sequel. Like he kind of writes them in like a movie way.
Yeah,
Where-
but he always
where
says he doesn't want to. He never wants to do sequels.
No,
He's like,
and I
yeah,
think that's really clever. Like he
Yeah,
ends
yeah.
all of his books like they're a movie where he's like,
yeah.
and you're like,
Yeah.
ooh, what could happen? And he's like, ah, ah, ah.
He's got a new book coming out this year.
I
too.
know, Wayward, which
What was it? Yeah, we were talking about this.
Wayward. I hate when there's alliteration. Like I really,
Are they
can't
witches? Is it Wayward Witch
it's
something?
it's Wayward Home. Is it that Wayward Home?
For witches?
Where is it? No, it's not that. It's like a bit more witchcraft for wayward girls.
Oh, okay. Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I'm in. Let's do it.
I'm so in. Oh my god,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't wait.
That's been
And
the
I
nice thing about reading again is I'm like, here's this author that I didn't know before.
My favorite thing. My
Who
favorite.
now I'm like, I love this person.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing when I start reading all of their stuff and I'm like, it's like consistent. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I'm along for the ride. He has a nonfiction book, Paperbacks from Hell. That's the
Oh,
book
yeah.
that I really want to read, but I think I'm gonna listen to the audiobook just as like a podcast because it's just about like his favorite
Mhm.
covers and horror fiction from the 70s and 80s. And the book is really expensive, but like I think I'm gonna bite the bullet and buy it eventually.
Speaking of expensive books,
Mhm.
when I was in Vancouver and Seattle, I
Oh,
went
yeah.
on a hunt
Uh-huh.
in every bookstore I could find for the hardcover copy of Last Night in Montreal. I was in bookstores where they were literally just books piled up in stacks, and I was like, it's gonna be in like this type of bookstore that I find it.
Mhm.
No dice anywhere.
You can find it on Amazon.
Yeah, I
It's
know, but it's like
expensive.
$50. I wanted
Yeah.
to try and find a copy like in one of those types of bookstores.
Yeah.
I did get to go into an Indigo,
Mhm.
which is the Canadian
That's our
version
Barnes
of
and Noble.
Yeah.
Barnes and Nobles. Much nicer than Barnes and Nobles, let me tell you.
I know. When I go into Barnes and Nobles, this is like a little rant that I'm gonna go on. So ugly. Like when I walk in there, I'm like, what is this? Where is
Angela
the modern sleek?
Angela and I spent, no lie, like an hour and a half in this bookstore, just walking around. I was looking for St. John Mandel. The person that worked there put me in the wrong section 3 different times. He's like, it's under M. So I went and I looked under M.
No, it's under S.
No, it's under J. So I went and I looked under J. Nope. So Bobby, what did you say? It's always under S, right?
It's always under S. Yeah.
In one of the bookstores I went to, I found it under M.
Oh, that's weird though.
But yeah, that
Oh
bookstore was
no! I said it was under M. That's what I said.
so whatever you said
Yeah,
it was
yeah, yeah.
under. At the next bookstore I went to, I found it under another letter.
Every American bookstore I've ever been to or library has been under M. So that's yeah.
But yeah, that bookstore was rad.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah,
liked it.
I love Indigo.
We don't our like big bookstores, like our corporate anything. Like it doesn't matter what kind of store it is. No part of it is meant to be aesthetically pleasing. It's meant
Yeah,
to
I
just be
hate
like,
that.
how big of a space can we put as much stuff in as possible? Like that is
Yeah.
that is what it is.
Oh,
It's
so
like
I
when
came.
I went to
Go
JC
ahead.
Penney for the first time. I was like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like they're all analogous.
JC
like,
Penney is not. Well, I guess yes, it is
no, because
an
you're like,
analogy. Yep.
as
No,
a
you're right.
Canadian, you hear
big,
about
bright
it. You know,
lights,
you're like,
yeah.
oh, the JC Penney. Like everybody says they get great prices there. Like time to go shopping. And like shopping in the States is like the #1 favorite Canadian thing to do. Where you like go over the border for like Canada Day weekend when it's not quite 4th of July. So you're like, yeah. And then you go into like the JC Penney with your mom because she has memories about it. And then you walk in and you're like,
It's a department
This is
store.
Walmart.
Yeah.
Like it's a Walmart for us. That's the way our clothes section looks.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the
That's
Walmart.
it. JCPenney doesn't even exist anymore. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
What?
Yeah, our JCPenney in the
Oh
mall
my
closed down.
gosh.
Yeah, whatever.
Got
I don't know
replaced
if
with
it's I don't know if it's closed everywhere, but it's pretty much done.
That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like our Zellers.
I picked up this book, Cold. And it's in
What is it?
Canada.
So he went to England a couple of weeks ago.
Mm.
And he showed me all these book covers, like these are all fantastic. And then he was sending pictures of your Canadian book covers, and I was like, I like ours better. That's how kind of usually it went.
In
He
Canada,
did say it.
we do. In Canada, we pick between the UK or the US.
Okay.
Like sometimes we get freaky and we pick the UK one.
I went looking.
Sometimes we pick the
All
American.
your kings, all the kings were the American ones, which I was bummed about because I want the EU
Yeah.
ones. But
You can buy those online.
I'm going to. Yeah, I'm definitely going to. But I was
The
like there, and I
Houses.
was like hoping that they just had them and stuff. But yeah, cool bookstore, really cool. That and the Tainted Cup. So I picked up Cold and the Tainted Cup, and Angela took the
Cold
Tainted Cup.
A tragic
It's like-
plane crash that leaves two women stranding and fighting for their lives kicks off the sweeping and hilarious novel from award-winning writer Drew Hayden Taylor.
Actually, it is
That
Drew
blends-
Hayden Taylor.
That blends thriller, murder, mystery, and horror with humor spectacle. Elmore Trent is a professor of Indigenous studies
Yeah,
who finds
that's it.
himself in okay.
Yeah,
I
I was
wonder
like-
if he's an Indigenous author. Actually,
so.
supporting
'Cause they had
Canada
to-
to and fro.
Yeah, well, they supported me with
no,
my
he's
money
not.
because I went there and it was
He
just
is.
like $100. It was like, oh, dinner's $100, and it would come out of my Apple Card, and then it would be like, it is $81, not 100. I felt like the richest person imaginable. I was like, I got no problem here. I'm going to tip you 25%. Angela's like, tip him 25%. Sure, why not? Cost me an extra $4.
It's like the
That's so-
opposite when we go to
that's so funny.
the States. They're like, can you split the bill 8 ways? And they're like,
No. How dare you ask? Get out. Do the
What?
dishes on your way out.
yeah, and we're like, okay. So then someone has to pay like the fucking $800 American, which is like 1,000 for us, and then we have to convert when we're splitting it. We're like, okay, it was this much, and then we have to convert this much, and then we have to, and oh my god, I hate it. Or when the e-transfer, why don't you guys have that? And the tapping, hello, just tap your money.
Yeah, no, the tapping is life-changing.
And an e-transfer, we just transfer through our banks. We don't use another app. What world is going on down
I'll
there?
tell you, does the government own your bank?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm just wondering. I didn't know how it works. I don't know how it works.
Honestly, I don't know either, but I don't think so. I'm gonna Google it actually.
We
Does-
can do. There's like Zelle and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
Zelle.
Which is
I
like
use
Yeah, I know,
Zelle.
but they're all third-party apps. That's what I'm saying. Like I do it
yeah, but the
directly from my
Zelle
bank.
like works through like your bank app basically.
Okay,
You can
I
use your
guess.
bank app. But I mean,
Does-
I can literally send Justin money like
Apple
if,
Cash.
If Justin went like, "Hey, that was $20," my phone will be like, "You should be giving Justin $20 right now." I'm like, okay,
Oh my god,
yeah,
aggressive.
yeah. I know.
There's only
By the
one.
way,
bank
Justin, you
that's
owe me
owned by
$20 for the
Canada.
movie on Saturday.
Bought you those books.
What books? Oh,
Stephen
right, the
King
books.
books.
Never mind. Yeah, you're right. No, you're totally
First
right.
of all, those are a souvenir.
I thought Justin was buying me a present, but you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
whatever.
No, but it was just an exchange of
Uh-huh.
goods.
I
It's
didn't
fine.
realize.
I bought you presents before. It's not your birthday.
Damn.
That's cold. That's the
Damn.
American way.
Damn. Okay. Okay.
That's the American
I was gonna
way.
gift you. I was gonna gift you that Fortnite dance like a week ago because I was ridiculously high when we were playing, and you're like, "I want this dance."
Which
I
dance?
looked-
The one I bought?
I forget. I forget. No, it wasn't the one you bought. It was a different one.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was like going to do it, and you're like, "Ah, fuck it, I bought it."
Oh yeah. yeah.
This seems like a personal matter, so we're gonna end the live show before you guys fight about the Fortnite dances.
No,
you
we're
owe
not gonna
each
fight
other.
about it. Kelsey, before we go though, do you know
you-
it was a very popular trending sound on TikTok, I think probably like
Oh my
last
gosh.
year.
Okay.
The like my money don't jiggle jiggle.
Yeah, of
It
course.
folds. So there's a dance in Fortnite where
Yeah.
it plays that guy and he does the little dance. Justin's never heard it before. And so I got it and I was doing it and then I got stuck in Justin's head.
I woke up to go to the bathroom at like 3:30 in the morning, and so I'm standing there, and it's like, "My money don't jiggle
Yeah,
jiggle," and I
I-
literally said, "Fuck that guy," talking
Yeah, I
about
used to
Bobby.
sing that randomly like last
Uh-huh.
year all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know it. I know it all.
Mm-hmm.
I see wiggle, wiggle, for sure. You know, my Fiat.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's the chicken fry, the chicken shop girl, and I love her.
Oh yeah. She's great.
It's her. It's from that interview.
It's from the interview. Yeah, she's great. She's awesome.
Oh, I love her, Amelia Queen.
Yeah, she does great interviews with Andrew Garfield,
Yeah,
and then they like flirt like hell
I
on the
know.
red
I want them
carpet.
to be
It's so
together
cute.
so badly.
Yeah.
But she always flirts with them in her like chicken shop interviews, and you can really tell when like the other one is like also a flirty person
Mhm.
because then they're like the banter back and forth is really good.
Yeah.
But then when they don't flirt back with her, I'm like, ugh. Like flirt back. Like who cares? You're at
Yeah, I
a
know.
freaking chicken tenders
I know.
place.
It'll make this a much more
You're an
engaging
actor.
interview. Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
why is the race car driver flirting with her more? Like why is Lando Norris, age 21, doing a better job? Like,
All right.
okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming to the live show. Reminder, the next book is Keanu Reeves recommended, The Overstory
It is literally what it says on the cover.
by Richard Powers. Pulitzer Prize winning, Keanu
Mhm.
Reeves favorite. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Kelsey.
And thank you, everyone. Bye.